We are now exactly 36 hours away from the first 10 2020 Democrats taking the debate stage in Miami for the biggest test we've seen so far in this election. And in between hunkering down for debate prep, most of the candidates faced another big test over the weekend at Congressman Jim Clyburn's annual South Carolina Fish Fry. It's a can't-miss event for Democrats trying to gain African-American support in that early voting state. But one candidate notably missing from the event, Mayor Pete Buttigieg. He was back home in South Bend, Indiana, dealing with the aftermath of last week's fatal police shooting of a 54-year-old black man by a white police officer. Now, he'd already been struggling to gain ground with the black vote, and on Sunday at a packed town hall, Mayor Pete faced tough questions, some loud yelling, and plenty of anger.
We're here first and foremost because the city is hurting, because the city is in pain, because someone among our number died at the hands of another hey,
sir, I'm about to give you the mic.
Sir.
I'm not mad about me personally. It's the fact that the community reached out. They keep begging for us to reach out and bridge this gap and whatever else, and we reached out to them, and they said no.
Get the people that are racist off the streets. Reorganize your department. It's disrespectful that I wake up every day scared. It's disrespectful that I have 3 boys that I have to teach today what to do.
I appreciate that what you said is specific and actionable and constructive. I will say that if anyone who is on patrol is shown to be a racist or to do something racist in a way that is substantiated, that is their last day on the street.
NBC's Josh Letterman was at that town hall. He joins me now from South Bend, Indiana, with the latest. There is obviously a huge question that we have here about the relationships between police and some of their constituencies. Having said that, we're right in the middle of this huge campaign season. Pete Buttigieg has gotten a big boost in the polls and fundraising largely from white voters, and in particular college-educated whites. No modern Democrat has ever won the Democratic nomination without big support from the African-American community. So tell us first what it was like in that room and how big a crisis is this for his young campaign?
Yeah, Chris, I've covered a lot of these town hall meetings over the years. Never seen anything that was this out of control as this town hall meeting yesterday, with folks shouting at Pete Buttigieg, calling him a racist. Looked like security was going to have to move in at some points in time where there were borderline physical altercations. And Mayor Pete said after to us, then reporters, that, you know, it's not about the campaign right now, that this is about his city, which is in crisis. But you're right, this is a major crisis for his campaign. And it's very difficult to see how he's going to be able to quickly pivot from this in just a couple of days into the first Democratic debates.
Josh Letterman, thank you so much. Joining me now to weigh in is Eddie Glaude, chairman of the Center for African American Studies at Princeton University and an MSNBC contributor, Susan Del Percio, Republican strategist and an MSNBC political analyst. Eddie, as you watch this, what went through your mind?
A couple of things. One, that it's a cumulative grievance. This wasn't just simply about what happened recently in South Bend. That seemed to be anger boiling over that had been simmering underneath. Second, that anger also is part of what's happening nationally. That Mayor Pete has to understand not only what's happening in his city, but what's happening around the country. So all of those same people are also looking at their social media pages. They're watching videos of folks, of black boys and black girls, of black men and women being stopped and harassed by the police, handcuffed. A pregnant woman recently in Phoenix being threatened to have put a cap in her head when she had her 4-year-old in her hand and outside of Phoenix. So all of this kind of compounds the question. And he can't respond like a technocrat.
Right.
He can't draw on his McKinsey training in that moment. And what I've said before, Chris, is that it seems to me that this is the perfect time for him to fall back on the policy the plan he just announced. Mayor Pete just announced the Douglas Plan, which is his version of the Marshall Plan for Black America, that we needed to address the circumstances of black communities with a massive influx of funding and policy. Well, you're the mayor of South Bend. You have a chance.
Yeah.
Do something specific.
And I was jumping ahead. It feels like we've been waiting a long time. 60 hours till the first debate. But this clearly is going to be a key issue that all of the candidates are going to have to talk about, not just the guy who happens to be the mayor of South Bend. You know, one of the things, though, that some people have been pointing to is, look, he didn't have to do a town hall, right? He could have, Susan just said, you know, and I'll meet with a small group of constituents, or simply issued a statement, walked off the stage. A lot of ways he could have done it. So he was asked about that by reporters after this was all over, and here's what he said.
I just think it's my job. I don't know if it's smart or not. I don't know if it's strategic or not. But it's my city.
And you can see he's emotional about it, Susan, but was this I mean, there's the right move and then there's a smart move, right? There's those two things.
Or sometimes you don't have a move and you just have to try something. And the problem with this town hall was, first of all, it's his first one on the issue. You know, following an incident, as Eddie said, this is not the first time that they've had an issue in the community with the police department. The other thing is he's running for president, so he did have to show how he was going to handle it. But when you don't have a history of doing town halls and reaching out to the community, it's very hard to just kind of show up one day, especially since no tangible result could be achieved. All he could do in that situation was be there to listen. And as Eddie said, if he would have put his Douglas plan, maybe if he would have put something forward substantial that people could say, this is what I'm going to do today, that would have been helpful. But, you know, I'm reminded Rudy Giuliani, when he started off as mayor in '94, he did one town hall in every borough every month. And it was a phenomenal thing to see. And you saw yelling, you know, I saw Josh's report. I saw way worse in certain neighborhoods with Rudy. But it's how you handle it, and you have to show you have a history of handling these types of things.
Yeah, and I think we're going to all see how they handle this come Wednesday and Thursday. You're looking at 5, 6, 7 minutes per person, right? If you're going to be realistic, add in the questions and the fact that you're on stage with 10 other people. Can you address something like this in a cogent, convincing way in a minute?
I think Buttigieg can. I mean, he has shown and he has demonstrated an extraordinary skill of representing a shift in vision, articulating our most fundamental values, trying to offer a narrative for our current moment that isn't kind of, shall we say, beholden to a kind of illusory kind of understanding of America as this shining city on the hill, but one that actually reflects our conflicts and our shared values. So I think he can do that, but he has to do it in such a way that is substantive, that's not sentimental. But that actually points us to a way that we can understand our relationship to one another.
Except the only issue I have is no matter what he says, they're still going to go back to South Bend and show people responding to his response. True. So he is boxed in. It's going to be very difficult for him to give any acceptable response. I think he could do something for himself in the presidential field on that large stage, but at home it will be hard, and there will be a second and third day story after it.
How much of this debate is going to be about Trump? Obviously, this is an easy one for a lot of the Democrats to draw, like, you know, easy comparisons to who we are as a party, what we stand for, as opposed to what you see in the White House. We may hear some of that. But again, given the parameters of the little amount of time that they have, differentiating yourself, standing out, is an easy thing to say as a piece of advice, a very difficult thing to do.
Right. I mean, look, I think we saw a preview of it in South Carolina. Kamala Harris talked about her 3 a.m. agenda. What are those issues that keep you awake? Amy Klobuchar talked about what she was going to do in the first 100 days. Buttigieg, his Douglas plan. Elizabeth Warren. How does government work? Who does government work for, and how might we have it work for everyday ordinary people? So we saw a preview of how they can hit it. It's just a matter of whether they execute. Whether or
We
not they
also
execute.
have a lot going on in foreign affairs right now on the spectrum, and it will be very interesting to see what these candidates do, because President Trump will be traveling overseas at the time of the first debate
And live tweeting,
be on
potentially.
and potentially live tweeting and on foreign soil. So I think we'll see different ways of handling it. You may see Joe Biden say politics ends at the water's edge, for example. It'll be very interesting to see how they choose to attack our president on foreign soil while he's on foreign soil.
And some people have made the argument it's not about even naming Trump by name. It's about showing that you can be that person who looks presidential, sounds presidential, has the message that I, as a Democratic voter, want to hear. If you can present yourself as that, then you, by extension, present yourself as someone who can beat Trump. But is that naive?
I don't think so. I don't think so. You have to be bold. You have to be visionary. You have to be courageous. You just can't simply be backward looking. You just can't simply be the candidate that guarantees that I can beat Donald Trump, right?
Saying it doesn't make it so.
Saying it doesn't make it so. Plus, our problems do not rest simply at the feet of Donald Trump.
Agreed.
If you think our problem is Donald Trump, then you don't have any clue about the nature of the
But
problem
there's also
facing us.
an interesting challenge, because the first night you have Elizabeth Warren, who's on stage, and you have the other 9 candidates who Joe Biden's not on stage with them. Will they make it about themselves and showing a difference? Versus the second night, will Joe Biden become a piñata for the other 9 candidates? So it could be 2 different, we could be seeing 2 different environments on 2 different nights.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.